as we said, it's something that some people spend lifetimes studying, especially if you want to go into astronomy. It is a subject that is attractive subject, and it does help us in many ways. And primarily what we concluded last time, it's for expansion of consciousness. Maybe this sounded more. I don't have to, okay, so I don't have to shout. And it helps us to understand that there's something beyond our perception only, our experience only. There's so many things that exist within the universe. And there are many things that we also can understand in terms of our position. So let's just quickly do some briefing from the last session, so maybe we can have lights off. Okay. Okay, so we talked about there is a, going to be discussion about astronomy and cosmology, and we pointed to different types of images that have been captured throughout the, I'll just go really fast, maybe for someone who didn't attend. Then we talked about different scientists and philosophers. They talked about Vedic cosmology, giving credit to Vedic cosmology. I'll just go quickly through this. But again, mention the same things, so that we don't think that it's just some kind of mythology or some kind of fairy tale stories. So then we talked about different practical benefits of astronomy, how people would align architecture, agriculture, so many different practical aspects of life in terms of position and influence of the stars. We talked about different temples which have been influenced by the Vedic teachings, and we also talked about different places throughout the world, Central America and Southeast Asia, that they have different constructions based upon the position of the stars. Yeah, this is Tiwanaku in Peru. They realized that it must have been built more than 10,000 years because of the central towers have been fixed according to sunrise and sunset, which nowadays it doesn't match. So then they traced back, and then they figured out from the central tower how it aligns with the position of the sun. Okay, so we mentioned different places, as in Java. And then we start talking a little bit about primary and secondary creation. Primary meaning from Lord Vishnu, that we touched a little bit upon, and then secondary from Lord Brahma. When he enters the universe, he starts creating. So then we said also that this material world, it's a perverted reflection. That's like CUC. It's 1/4 of the sum total creation, which is unlimited. That's why we draw it in such a way, present it in such a way. But it's also perverted reflection. You see the perverted trees and the water. So that this is described that water represents the desire, material desire. So what is originally existing there in the spiritual world, it's just unfortunately perverted, or maybe fortunately, because that's not the real place where we should remain. It's just a perverted reflection of the original substance. So this is what represents the material world. We talked about that creation is just like the spider, and then different expansions of the Lord. We pointed out here. How many are there in Goloka Vrindavan? Which are those expansions? Of course, that we can talk about their pastimes and mentioned in the scriptures. And we talked about in Vaikuntha. How many different expansions are there in Vaikuntha regions, Vaikuntha planets. It's unlimited. Spiritual world, it's really unlimited space. and of course the most perfect. And then we talked about in this material world how many expansions take place in each and every universe. That's why it is said that just like the waves in the ocean, you can't count them. Krishna is everywhere. Krishna is everywhere at all times practically. Okay, then I talked about Sankarshan, or Lord Balaram expanding, and we pointed out to the spiritual world. In the spiritual world we see that there are different cities, different perfections, like marked with different jewels, different valuable precious stones, so that is different perfections, and these trishul, on the different sides are serving as a protectors. They're all living entities, so there's their function, that nobody qualifies, who is not qualified cannot enter those different spiritual regions. And then if those perfections are also misused, then they're pushed down. They're pushed down to the material world. Anybody misusing any position is pushed down to the material world. And then we have the gatekeepers, different avatars residing in different places, and we have Mathura, Jagannath Puri, Dwarka, different regions around the Golok, Vrindavan. And then each and every petal represents different pastimes and different dasas that take place in the spiritual world. We say that everything is just like a lotus, everything is shaped in the form of a lotus leaf. And then we talked about different pastimes. Chaitanya Lila happens there, Krishna's pastimes happen there. And then we have Vaikuntha regions, so many different Leelas that take place there. And then we glide down to the material world, which is where creation takes place with every breath of Mahavishnu. And so many golden universes emanate and then get enveloped with the cloud, which is Mahatattva, which is residing in the region of Brahmajyoti, and then those seeds are enveloped and all the elements are formed. And then Jiva in time, that's what agitates Mahatattva. And then Lord Brahma enters inside, Lord Brahma manifests from Garbhodakashaya Vishnu, who enters inside the universe. And then we talk a little bit about his creation. And then we have these 7 layers. So each and every personified deity of these layers worshipped Vishnu, as is described in Brihad Bhagavatamrita, that each and every deity is worshipped here. I mean, different deities of Lord Vishnu are worshipped here by these different personified elements. And they're way more opulent than even Brahmaloka. And each is 10 times larger, and so many things happen there which is not accessible to us. So nothing is an empty space. So even that, it's meaningful, those different layers that are there. And then we talked about Mahatattva, different stages of creation that take place. And we didn't mention now, but we'll say, we can read here that false ego is very often manifest and mentioned, false ego. So false ego, it's explained, it's just like a catalyst in chemistry. Everybody knows about a catalyst. So it's just like a catalyst. You just keep on adding false ego, you keep on getting so many different things, when you combine it with the elements. So false ego acts in such a way within the creation. And then we talked about Pradhan, Prakriti, Mahatattva, different forms of material energy, and how the creation takes place, and then how many different elements. And as we said, with the addition of that false ego, plus false ego, then we get different modes of material nature, which are explained in Srimad Bhagavad Gita, different qualities. And then we get different senses, different objects of the senses. Then we talk about different qualities of different elements, how that manifests. And the Vedic process is everything happens from subtle to gross. That's how everything is manifested. Then we talked about, we just mentioned the ether also as another element, which is not as prominent. Material science, so and then different type of creations, Sarga and Visarga. So then Sarga, from Lord Brahma, Mahatattva, false ego, sense perception, knowledge, controlling deities, different kind of qualities, so manifested by Lord Brahma. Immovable living entities like flowers, trees, and so forth. 28 lower species, birds, animals, and then human beings and demigods, so many different kinds of, and then different other qualities. Lord Brahma, he really does a hard work, and he's provided a blueprint from Lord Vishnu how to create. Okay, so this is where we stopped last time. We said that the whole universal form of the Lord represents different levels of the planetary systems. So we know there are 14 planetary systems, 7 lower, 7 higher. So they all correspond to different parts of Lord's body. And as we will see throughout the universe, he's present everywhere. It's just, there's no place where Krishna is not present, either in atomic form or either in some greater form, like this universal form. And it is said that out of all the forms, the universal form is temporary, although it's spiritual, although it's transcendental. But it's temporarily manifest as much as it's this universe is manifest. That's the point. Although it's Krishna, but it's not eternally manifested in such a form. Only when the universe is manifest. And then it maintains the universe. So then all these different planetary systems, what it's interesting, in yoga system, you can see also that the yogis try to elevate their kundalini, their energy, from different chakras, from lower to the higher. And that also represents different planetary systems. As you can see there, different planetary systems, Maharloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, Satyaloka. So how yogi is effective, he can elevate his consciousness, he can activate different chakras or even leave the body in a certain way and attain those different regions. Ours is to attain Krishna Loka, right? We don't want to attain anything within the universe, so we want to elevate our consciousness beyond the chakras, beyond anything that is there within the universe. But this is what yogis would do within the scope of the universal affairs. They would elevate their energetic levels higher and higher and aim at different planetary systems. So then we see here's a little bit cross-section how the universe is formed. Essentially, when Lord Brahma manifested on the lotus, which is, that lotus, it's Satya Loka, or Brahma Loka, the topmost planetary system, but everything is within the lotus, which was manifested from the navel of the Vishnu. So everything is contained within. All the planetary systems are within. And every material that was required was drawn from that lotus to create all these different places. So you see this cross-section. So we have topmost planetary systems like Satyaloka, Tapaloka, Janaloka, Maharloka. Then we have Bhumandala, Svarga, Bhu, Bhuvar and Bhu, coming from up. And then within we have Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Talatala, Mahatala, Rasatala, and Patala. And then we have planets that are hellish planetary systems that are down just above the Garbhodaka ocean, where the Kurma form of the Lord resides. So now, there's so many descriptions what happens in those regions and who qualifies to go there, who qualifies to reside or has certain experience that is provided within such planetary systems. So in higher planetary systems like Maharloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, and Satyaloka, generally Janaloka, Tapaloka, and Satyaloka, they don't get destroyed, they remain when there is a partial devastation after every day of Brahma. So who goes there? Those who are perfect brahmacharis, they go to Maharloka. Those who are perfect, actually the hastas, then brahmacharis, Janaloka, vanaprasthas, Tapaloka, and sannyasis, Satyaloka. Somebody who is really practicing Varnashram Dharma, who becomes purified and qualified, goes to all these higher planetary systems. And then Atala Vitala Sutala, that we will discuss a little bit in following slides. So here we have Tapaloka. What it means? That means that somebody who didn't achieve absolute perfection continues performing. It's the place extremely suited for different kinds of meditative processes that are given there. And there are absolutely no disturbances. Everything is just perfect. It's really just so facilitating different type of spiritual realization. So it's a very, very conducive place for elevating further oneself in spiritual consciousness. So that's why Tapaloka. And it's not like some other places within the universe where there's so much disturbance going on, like in heavenly planets. For different reasons, which we will explain. Then we have a Shvetadvip. That's also in the spiritual realm. Like we know, the demigods come to the shore of the Milk Ocean, trying to evoke Mahavishnu for various reasons, mostly to save them from different troubles. Then, of course, Svarga Loka. There's a lot of enjoyment going on, but there's a lot of disturbance when demons come in different forms and try to observe Indra's position. So Svarga Loka, we have heard many things from different stories, what is going on. And there we have Bhuvar Loka as the region, practically Antariksha region, which is the region between sun and the moon. In fact, we are on Bhu. Bhu means earth, no? So Bhuvar, it's a higher region. So that's the space, they said, between sun and the moon. And that's where all the different kind of subtle and other Upadevata living beings reside. They're guided by Lord Shiva. And then of course we have a lower planetary system. One second, how did this image came like this? Okay, just forget about this first one. So behind, anyway, can't see now, but there's a Chinese story about a man who entered into caves of the earth, and he didn't come out for quite some time. And when he came back, whole time changed. Everything was different. And then he told a story how he was met with three types of women: Kamini, Svarini, and Pumshchali. So they're all very, very seductive, and they give some intoxicating beverages to a man who feels strong like an elephant and enjoys, sexually for many, many years, completely forgetting the time. And they exploit him like this. And the man thinks he's the most powerful in the universe, but he completely forgets the time, completely forgets himself, completely forgets about everything else. He's the one being exploited, actually. Yeah. And then when he came back, the time completely changed. So this is what happens in Atala planetary systems. There's so many types of enjoyment available, and it said that lower planetary systems are known as Bila Svarga. It means it's also Svarga, but lower, Bila. Yeah. But it's greater material enjoyment than even on heavenly planets. It's interesting. But who goes down there? Anybody who performs pious activities, anybody who follows the Shastra also, but they're not so Krishna conscious. That's the point. They're not really interested in spiritual life. They will use piety for themselves, but they're not interested in God consciousness. So then they expanded piety going to lower planetary systems. Yeah. And then of course, then we have this slide. Somehow this one got stuck. I don't know what happened with it. We'll fix this later. Then we have Tala Tala. Tala Tala comes. Can't see it here somewhere because of this funny. I'm not going to do this now. I don't know why it's stuck. Anyway, Tala Tala, this gives you some idea, like some futuristic city, no? I see like UFO flying, this and that. So that's Tala Tala regions. It's very advanced in technology. This is the place where Maya Danava resides. Yeah. He has all this technology available. They're very expert, and all of that technology comes from those lower planetary systems that we use nowadays. Either people, either for whatever, from whatever sources and in whichever way. Sometimes people who appear on this planet have been down there carrying all those impressions, and then they start creating, or they might be direct also influence, whatever it is. So this is what it happens. It's all very dark, because it's said that all these lower planetary systems are 10,000 yojanas in height and width, and they're just cave-like. There's no sun, and that's why there is no conception of time. It's just enjoyment. At least they try to enjoy. Like, you can't really enjoy, but they're trying to enjoy. They're facilitated in so many ways. Just like if you try to go to some shopping complex, right? It's all just lights. Everything is artificial. Yeah. In some places there are also nagas who have these jewels on their head. They also illuminate the regions by that kind of reflection from any other source of light. So this is what this next slide is. Patala. Okay. Patala, and then we have Sutala, where Bali Maharaj resides. Seven lower planetary systems. Okay, here's Bali Maharaj. And then, of course, down we said we have Narakloka, lower planetary systems, lowest. There are different kind of punishment takes place for very sinful activities. And living entity goes there without the body, in the subtle form, and experience all these different, just like in a dream, one experience some different kind of very unpleasant reactions. So that's Narakaloka, that's down beneath all those 14 planetary systems. And then what is interesting, somebody would have been studying cross-cultural cosmology, and one would see that's a big subject now. One would see that so many different civilizations, Sumerian, Babylonian, Egyptian, Greek, North American, Indian, or old European, the different Egyptian, different cultures have very, very similar concepts. That they're like a tree of life, or different four streams. It's like we have Ganga descending on the Mount Meru, and then different trees on the four prominent mountains. I mean, different, very, very interesting, or circular kind of like we see here. It's an old European cosmology. Different regions. They would compare them to major planetary orbits, but which we know, which also correspond to the Vedic oceans and planets on the Bhumandala. So a lot of interesting. According to this Buddhist map, of course, they drew it from the Vedic sources. A lot of very similar concepts that existed in the past. So here we have a cross-section of our universe, which points out how what a structure is. We talked about Satyaloka, Tapajana, Maharno. Then we have Svarga, Bhuvar, and then Bhur. So where the major planets are, Nakshatras, and Saptarishis, Dhruvaloka up on the top. And then we have a Bhumandala, which is like in the form of a disk. And then the 7 other lower planetary systems within that, that's the earthly region. And then we have elephants holding the Bhumandala and balancing the Bhumandala. So there are so many different 8 elephants that are engaged in that. And then we have Sumeru mountain and different regions on the top of the Bhumandala. And then we have Kurma, who is holding all of this, swimming in the Garbhodakashai ocean. And then Shesha, of course, which is keeping it on its hoods. And of course the red, if you see the red little, these are the thousands and millions practically of the hellish planetary systems. For each and every bad thing anybody does, there is a specific unique place for having a certain reactionary experience. So this is the cross section. So now you may say, how come such a giant tortoise? No. How come such a giant elephant? It was very interesting that in the last to last century, there have been three individual independent reports from the astronomers that have seen gigantic birds in the universe. One was from Prussia, which was a part of Germany. Used to be known as Pomeria. One was from Holland, one was from Britain. And those astronomers, this was one collection of old ancient astronomical journals. And they mentioned it was just like a vampire, a giant vampire. Somebody said like a giant bird, giant crow, different expressions they used. And in one case they said one was as large as 250 miles in diameter and 50 miles in width, hovering over, they noticed that through the telescope. So what did they see? So this is by the credible scientists, of course, and these are things that have been published but never discussed afterwards. So, and of course there's one whole book about this kind of anomalous observing phenomena or different things that have been found but scientists can't explain the origin of it. That's contained in one book called Damned by Charles Fork. And then, of course, we have these elephants, but then we have this elephant. Who is this elephant? Airavata. And what does Airavata, how many tusks he has? Huh? Did you ever see an elephant with 4 tusks?
No.
Does it exist? No? Huh? Anybody ever seen the elephant with 4 tusks? In Ramayana it is described. First, some of them, it is described in Sita Swayamvar, there was some elephant with 4 tusks. And it said in Lanka also that Rama and monkeys came on different entrance gates. Ravana had 4 elephant tusks. So, where are these elephants? Where are the 4 tusks? Yeah. So when I say this is all mythology. But what is this? Huh? Gomphotherium. See? It has 4 tusks. And it has been found in 2 centuries ago in Europe, Kenya, and US, different parts of the world. You see? It has 4 tusks. Extinct, but it was there. So we shouldn't just think, just like we have this conception, whatever we can't perceive today, and we've heard, maybe from the Vedic sources, that it existed, and that's a mythology. Just because we can't perceive it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. So here we have a cross section. This is now how lower planetary systems are resting on Anantashesha and on the Kurma. They're all engaged. These are different forms of the Lord for different performing such different pastimes. And what is interesting also that we find this element, like we said, in cross-cultural studies. We find it throughout the world. Like this is in Honduras. This was Maya's culture. Maya itself. They have a lot of interesting connections with Sanskrit and Vedic culture. That's also very interesting. How come such a civilization who is so far away from India has such a conceptions? So they also consider the cosmic turtle, to be the essence or the foundation of the universe. So we have this Mayan Kurma avatar god as a tortoise. So they also worship the tortoise. So that's very, very interesting. It's a very similar concept. We have American India, Turtle Island, the land bestowed by the god. So that conception. And then in Japan, They also worship turtle intertwined with a snake, which is just like an anka on top of it. You know. China also, and that's symbolizing longevity, protection, you know, different symbol, but the concept is pretty much the same, tortoise and the snake. And then again, there's another one. And then in Mongolia also, tortoise as a foundation of the universe. Okay, so now we zoom a little bit on the Svarga, Bhupu or Svarga region. And then what do we see? It's like a big chandelier. What is this? What is this big chandelier? It's like we have in the temple, no? It's a big, pretty big chandelier we have. And we see that all the different planets and all the different stoko, they're not stars really. Stars are only in Vedic teachings representing, nakshatras are representing stars. We don't really so to say stars. Stars are self-illuminating planets, objects, but these are different planets, which are all connected, it is explained by the gaseous ropes, to what? To Shishumar. If you see this is the shape of the dolphin, no, the Shishumar, and on top of its tail, it's the Dhruvaloka or polar star. And then everything else is connected, and as the Shishumar revolves, all these different planets connected revolve. This is how everything takes place. So what is this Shishumar? This is like described that the yogis meditate on this form of the Lord. It's an imaginary form, because it's said that in different things there are different planets and different parts of the body, side nakshatra, this, that, you know, so many different planets. And that's why, let's say, Mars has a crooked motion. You can't figure out the Mars. I mean, of course, it can be astronomically. But the Mars has a different, it doesn't have just a circular motion. And how is that? Because the things move in different ways. You know? So one doesn't have a perception directly of this Shishumar, but it's like, I don't know if sometimes, if you had here, sometimes in comics or sometimes they have different dots from 1 to I don't know which number. You draw the line, no? You get certain shape. No. Ever had that?
Yes.
No? So it's like this. So the yogi sees, okay, these are different planets. You connect them, get a shape of Shishumar, and you can meditate like this. That's a form of the Lord, imaginary form. So that's what yogis would do. That's a type of meditation. So then when we zoom in, like you see, down, if you look from that bird or Shishumar point of view, then you have these different oceans, and which is, each one is double the size of the other, so but that, you know, if you can represent exactly, it would go way off out of the scope of this image. So see, we have different dvipas or islands, Jambudvip, Lakshadvip, Shamalidvip. Anybody knows why Shamalidvip is known? Kushadvip, Ramcha, Shaktadvip, Pushkardvip. Nobody knows anyway. Then salty ocean, sugar, anybody wants sugar cane? There's a sugar cane ocean. Anybody wants a liquor ocean can go there. By the way, scientists from the, I think, Princeton University or somewhere, they figure out there's a huge ocean cloud of the alcohol in the universe. They found it. They found it. I've seen some. Okay, then the liquid ghee, ocean of milk, ocean of yogurt, and then sweet water. So salty water, sweet water, and all these different oceans. And of course, this is reserved for Upadevatas. One has to qualify to go there. You can't go there. That's beyond our beyond our karma. And then of course in the middle it's Jambudvip, as the planet we will show where we are, and then Mount Meru, which is again divided by Ganga, 4 streams. and different demigods having their residence on top. And then from there, there's a shaft connecting with this track on which there's a mountain on which sun travels. There's a mountain on which sun travels. So that comes later on. I don't know, we'll come to the point of astronomy, but it has two shafts, one connected to Mount Meru and one connected to Dhruvaloka, which goes up and down, creating Uttarayan and Dakshinayan. When it's up, the orbit is small. When it's down, the orbit is greater. Yeah. So then you have an idea that it's kind of the same distance, same speed, but it's not. It's not. Same thing with the moon in heaven. And then there is a golden land, Kanchana Bhumi, then Loka mountains, which goes all the way up to Dhruvaloka. It's enormously high. And then the elephants stand there, balancing everything. They have their own function. Okay, so here is the same perception from the Shishumar, as we said, Dhruvaloka, and see there Shishumar down, and then all the different planets connected to these gaseous robes, and with Shishumar revolving, all of them revolving around. So why these circular islands and why the circular oceans? As described in Shastra, that once King Priyavrata was going after the sun around Mount Meru, and then with his chariot he imprinted all these different places. And then these different oceans, they had been sons of Viraja river, they were cursed to take form of these oceans and resided there within this universe. Anyways, there's a story for everything. You know, why is all of this as it is? You know? Okay. So now if we zoom in, if we zoom to the region where we are, then we see Mount Meru supported by pericarps. And as we said, everything is like a lotus. Everything is in the shape of a lotus, and everything is like lotus leaves. And you see the lotus leaves are circular? No? And then within the lotus you have different petals, you know, and then you have this pericarp. So the Mount Meru, which is the biggest mountain, at least on this Jambudvip plain, it's huge, 80,000 yojanas, 84,000 yojanas in height, and I don't know how much down also within the earth. You know, and then it's supported by these pericarp mountains at a certain height, and then the four major mountains which have the major life trees of life. And it's said that those fruits that are on this, they fall down, they create a river. That's what Jambudvip, a jumbo fruit, you know, or different fruits like this, they create rivers. So it's a heavenly region. It's actually heaven. It's not Svarga, but it's for Upadevatas. And then there are different borders. There are 9 regions there, different Varshas. Hari Varsha, you know, Kuru Varsha, Bhadrashva Varsha. So many different Varshas, like Kim Purusha Varsha. That's something that it's inaccessible. But on the southern portion, there is the original big Himalaya, and there is the small Himalaya, which is on our planet. So we are just zooming in, and there is the salty ocean, and then many islands surrounding it. So we'll zoom in. We're zooming in. Zooming more. Okay. So here we come. Here is the Himalaya, big Himalaya, and then the portion of Bharatvarsha being flooded. And then we have these different 9 islands. 9 islands, of which our planet is one. Different stories how this happened to be that the ocean flooded the Bharatvarsha. But there's the original great Himalaya, and then there's Himalaya on our planet. But our planet is not exactly round, it's like a petal. And you see it's not round, nobody says it's like an egg like they say, but actually it's like a petal, Prabhupada described. It's like a petal. And then we don't have access to the lower region of it, which is Antarctica. Nowadays Antarctica is the most mysterious region. Nobody's even allowed. You can't go there, and who knows what's going on. Yeah. It's like very mysterious. So that's the region which is connected to Jambudvip. Of course, and other things we don't have perception of, we don't have karma, we don't have access to. Yeah. You don't have access to. And everything that we don't perceive, when we look at the sky, we just see what we see. We see the portion that we are entitled to see by our karmic activities. Everything else is more subtle, not accessible to us. So then there's some discussion about our planet being round in shape. So there are many different references in Shastra. One is also in Mahabharata. It said in this Bharat Khanda called Sudarshan Vipa, since it looks beautiful to the eyes of the onlooker, being circular, it looks like a disc of the Lord and is attached to the cyclic time in the form of disc presided by the god Sudarshana. So it is the form of a globe, since all four corners of this Bharat Khanda it's rounded like a pale fruit. So anyway, so it said, the nature of Sudarshan Vipa or Bharatvarsha is the view from the moon. So half of this earth appears like a rabbit and small peepal leaf, and the other half appears in the form of big peepal leaf, and they are surrounded by all varieties of vegetation. So that was drawn by one Sri Vaishnav sannyasi, and he was doing some studies of astronomy, and he was drawing, and then of course initially it was like this. Rabbit, this, that, and then when he turned things around, and that's what you get your planet here, it's like kind of, had some idea how it looks in the shape. This shape, okay. We also did this research of cosmology. We met one Swamiji from Mulbagal, Madhva Sampradaya. He did his own chart with Sishumar, everything, all these planets. He studied very thoroughly and everything. So he also helped us a lot. Earlier he was a professor in some university. And then there was another one who was PhD in physics in Bangalore. We met that sannyasi, he was from Uttaradi Math, and the other one was from Raghavendra Math. Anyway, so they did studies. So even sages in ancient times, the cosmology of astronomy was just an integral part also of understanding some other sciences in relationship to spiritual life. So that's why the awareness of cosmology is an integral part of the Vedic culture, even in daily life today. A Brahmana priest will begin a ceremony by chanting an invocation mantra called Sankalpa. In this mantra, the priest introduces participant to the Lord by specifying exact time and location of the ceremony to be performed. So this is very interesting. This mantra, it's an ancient mantra. That means from the beginning of the creation, one would know the place and one would know what is the time. No? Anybody knows the mantra? Aditya Brahma, Dvitya Prarabde, Svetavaraha Kalpe, Vaivasvataman Vantare, Astra Vishamtitame, Kali Yuga, Praptame Pade, Jambudvipe, Bharatvarshe, Bharatkande, Meroho, Dakshine Parshve. No? So the exact location, it's where are we, when we are, those who are performing the yoga, and what is the time? What is the time? From the beginning of the creation, that's also mentioned. So the very, very, very amazing information. So it's not something that is, that was unclear to the Vedic sages. What is going on in the universe? What is our position? What is the time that we are in? Everything was very clear. So then we have some Vedic physics, the nature of space-time and the matter. So the different, of course, dimensions. Anyway, just go quickly through this. Last time we talked that there's a multi-dimensional space. It's not just what we perceive within three-dimensional. And we told that story about Lord Brahma once visiting Dwarka. And just to make a little joke, Lord Krishna told the gatekeeper to inquire from Brahma, to ask him which Brahma. And then Brahma was asked, he said, but what which Brahma? There's no other Brahma, I'm the only one. There's only one Brahma in the universe. So then he came and asked Krishna, why did you ask this question? And then Krishna just closed his eyes and invited so many different Brahmas from so many different other universes. And they all started coming. They were all way bigger than this Brahma, because other universes, it said, is one of the smallest. Brahma has only 4 heads. And all the other had so many different, hundreds heads, 1,000 heads, million heads, 100 million heads, it's like so many different. They were all coming, offering obeisances. Then different Lord Shivas came, they offered obeisances. And all of them, what was very interesting, and then Brahma was so confused. He said, wow, he felt so insignificant. It felt like a rabbit among elephants. He was so confused. He said, what is going on? So Krishna enabled him to see, to have that perception which one ordinarily doesn't have. Huh? And none of these Brahmas were aware of any other Brahma. Only this Brahma was given this access to that understanding that there are so many other Brahmas coming. Because in each and every universe there is Dvaraka Lila going on. So they all visited Krishna, visited one Krishna, there's only one. But this Brahma could see all of them and all other Shivas and so on. So if Krishna gives anyone access to multidimensional space, one can have that perception. So if one expands his sensory perception, one can have access to different dimensions. That's the idea. And that's what Krishna can do. That's what Arjuna can do while witnessing also the universal form. Otherwise it's impossible. So that's Krishna's mercy. One has that access to multi-dimensions. So otherwise also, how did Banasura have 1,000 arms and shoot from 500 bows simultaneously? How can one do that? How do you fit 1,000 arms in one space? Can you do that? Not in 3-dimensional space. How did Ravana have that? It's so funny how they put it. 5 heads here, 5 heads here. It's not like that. That's a joke. It's like, that doesn't work like this. It involves multidimensional science. It's not like that. I remember how these movies, it's so funny, like when Hanuman is flying, no? And then he's flying and then he's pedaling with his leg. He's not spinning. It's not funny. It's not like this. Don't remember. That's why I don't watch movies and stuff. So many funny things going on there. Alright, so yeah, Mahabharata, when they shoot arrows, it's like so funny. So it's not like that. Okay. Okay, so anyway, so there are so many different discussions on multidimensional space. Yeah, okay, so this is Arjuna. So the Vedic Cosmology gives us description of the entire cosmos and its subtle features, and we said that perception of why we don't see Jambudvip, why we don't see that requires particular access, particular qualification, particular karmic qualification. So even in NASA, they say that roughly 70% or more of the universe consists of dark energy, about which we know next to nothing. We don't have that perception, we don't understand. But according to mass, they understand, well, this is how much it should be there. But they just don't have perception. So either we have failed to see 99% of the universe, or we are wrong about how the universe began. Well, it's both. So that's we talked a little bit about cosmology now. So it's creation, maintenance, destruction. So we said that Brahma creates all these different varieties, everything. Then maintenance, we talked about Vishnu. He takes form of universal form, takes form of Shishumar, takes form of Kurma, takes so many different forms just to maintain this universe practically, and then enters into each and every atom. And then of course we have a destruction, basic 3 types described in Srimad Bhagavatam. So then it's after every day of Brahma. And there are some other ones, but these are majors. Then the ultimate destruction of the whole universe, and then destruction of each and everyone's body. That's also considered a pralaya. Turned here due to one's qualitative actions and reactions. So there are different types of destructions here. And of course we have then the story of Matsya, And sometimes even after every Manvantar there is some pralaya that takes place, and then Lord appears in a Matsya form to save the Vedas, to save the sages, few living beings and few other animals, and then repopulates everything after the flood. And this is also interesting, this story, it's a worldwide story. It's there in Gilgamesh, which was Sumerian, later on same story taken as Noah in the Bible. And then we have it in Central America, we have it Polynesia, throughout the world. Egypt also, 7 sages, exactly the number 7 great gods, descended from the boat to repopulate and to recreate everything afterwards. So the same story told throughout the world. Same thing that we know the story of Matsya Avatar and King Satyavrata. Okay, I think we'll stop here. This is later on. Everything comes. It's what is discussion? It's about eclipses, day and night, seasons. So I don't know how much somebody who's here for the first time will able to bear this. It becomes very technical, what happens with the sun, this, that, where it goes. So this is just more like an entertaining, basic presentation for some of you who had no idea about this cosmology, but you can study. And when you compare the modern one with the Siddhantas are even more precise and more correct. And that's what's stated by the astronomers themselves. Anyway, okay, so now for the conclusion, we'll show one video. 1 second. Okay, we have it. Start from the beginning, which will point out to credibility of the Shastra. That's the point. How people in ancient times, they were very well aware of, like we said, why cosmology is important, to understand auspicious and inauspicious times, to perform different rituals and get positive results, right? So they were very, very aware and very expert in the mathematics, physics, astronomy. Yeah, they were not primitive as nowadays some people would like us to think, unfortunately. So you can see this video now. Huh? Yeah, okay.
Existence comes from...
Okay, wait 1 second. Okay, listen now. It's short, it's 7 minutes. There's a little more text.
This is found in the texts of the Mahabharata. There are over 140 of these astronomical references. Dr. Hari Archa.
So that's 140 astronomical. Why would that be in Mahabharata? Why would so much astronomical reference be in some story? Yeah. So it's not coincidence.
Is a professor of physics at the University of Memphis and the world's foremost researcher of the astronomical events described in the Mahabharata text.
The Mahabharata War, the date of it, is an important milestone in the chronology of India. Traditionally, Indians have believed that the war took place about 3000 BCE. Modern scholars who have a more critical approach to the study of these epics took a different view. They did not believe the traditional view that the war took place so long ago, and they wanted to determine the date by using a variety of methods based on linguistics, methods based on archaeology, the genealogy lists in the Puranas, and methods based on astronomy. And they came up with a plethora of dates ranging from about 5000 BC all the way up to 500 AD.
Professor Archa uses a specially developed computer software program that enables him to view the night sky as it would have appeared at any time in the past. He has painstakingly reproduced the exact night sky for every reference to it in the Mahabharata. Professor Acha again.
Turns out the types of astronomical phenomena referred to in the epic consist of muhurta, tithis, and then eclipses, comets, and the conjunctions of planets with different stars, and so on. In the Bhishma Parva, Vyasa meets with Dhritarashtra on the eve of the war, and recites to him the omens that he has seen.
These omens predict the imminent war between the Pandavas and the Kauravas, and the terrible events which will befall both the Kuru family and the general population. The most significant of these omens is the appearance of two fiery comets.
Graho Tamrarana Shikho Prajvalita Ukho. People generally take the word Graha to represent a planet, but Vyasa here specifically represents Graha simply means that any object which can grasp a star, and it can be a planet, a comet, and an asteroid. So it specifically says that it's a comet because Graho Tamrarana Shikho Prajvalita Ukho. The two grahas with blazing coppery red hair. No planet has blazing coppery red hair, it's only the comet which has that. So Vyasa specifically refers to graha, in comets as graha. Then I have that convinced that the verses in Bhishma Parva are really not incoherent, inconsistent, contradictory, but in fact they form a very consistent set.
Professor Acha has identified further astronomical references in two of the books of the Mahabharata, namely the Udyoga and the Bhishma Parvas. Again, these were regarded as omens of imminent disaster. These were when Saturn was at Aldebaran and Mars performed a retrograde motion near Antares.
Now the astronomical events which are common to both Udyoga Parva and Bhishma Parva are these. Saturn is at Aldebaran. Mars has performed a retrograde motion at Antares. The lunar eclipse in the month of Kartika, which occurs at Pleiades, is followed by a solar eclipse near Antares. So I searched for the years between 3500 BCE to about 500 CE, range of 4,000 years. Indeed, there are 137 such conjunctions where Saturn is at Aldebaran.
Here we see Saturn's transit at Aldebaran. It is an event which is even today considered by Indian astrologers to be associated with great wars and violent events. The last transit of Saturn at Aldebaran was in 2001 AD, the year of ground zero, Saturn's retrogression seemingly predicting the exact month, September. Professor Acha again.
And then I searched for those years in which Mars would perform a retrograde motion near Antares. Now Mars does that on about a synodic period about 680 days. So I searched for a period of 2.5 years on either side of each of these 137 days. And it turns out that this reduces the set of days from 137 to just 17. And then I looked for those years where there is a lunar eclipse in the month of Kartika, that is near Pleiades. And this reduces the set from 17 to just 2.
These 2 years identified by Professor Acha were 2183 BC and 3067 BC.
I thought I could use the solar eclipse to eliminate one of those, but it turns out on both of these days, the lunar eclipse is followed by a solar eclipse, which occurs in near Antares. In 2183 BCE, the winter solstice occurs in the waning phase of the moon, Krishna Consciousness. And in 3067 BCE, it occurs in the waxing phase, and we want the waxing phase. So this is one way to eliminate that 3067 BCE is the year of the war. For the 2183 BCE, to satisfy that 64 days between those two intervals, the war must have started on an Amavasya. or the new moon day. And we have definite information from the epic that the war did not start or could not have started on an Amavasya, because on the 14th day of the war, they break all rules of war. The war continues into night, and they break only when the moon rises and the wee hours early in the morning. Now, if the war had started on an Amavasya, the 14th day would have been in the waxing phase, and the moon would rise early in the evening and not early in the morning.
Moreover, a careful study of the epic yields data about a third eclipse in October 3067 BC, which follows the solar eclipse at an interval of 13 days, just as the epic describes. The evidence presented by Professor Acha overwhelmingly pinpoints 3067 BC as the year when the great battle described in the Mahabharata took place. Detailed examinations of the astronomical references mentioned in the Mahabharata show that they were based on real astronomical events that actually took place and are not a writer's imaginary description.
Okay, Joy, can we have lights? Hare Krishna. Any questions? Yeah.
Today I read somewhere, Prabhupada mentioned that the sun is more closer to the planet Earth than the moon. But if we
Sun is closer to Bhumandala. If you view it like this, and our planet is there, so Sun is closer to Bhumandala. And Moon is higher than the Bhumandala. So depending on the viewer, are you viewing it from our planet, which is from the side, and you're looking at the orbits, or you're viewing it from the Bhumandala? Then it has a different sequence. Okay. So Sun is closer in that sense. That's why Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Okay. Okay. Yes.
You have told about the Narloka,
Narloka.
lower planet. So on in Narloka, the soul get punishment. So we have here
In the subtle body. You're there in the subtle body. You have still mind, intelligence, and ego. I said just like in the dream. So you're dragged down there in your subtle body. That's why you can die every now and then. You can experience that pain of dying very often. Entering into gross body and getting out of the gross body, that would make things more complicated. But there in the subtle body, it's much faster. But even worse, more painful.
But we have here the soul cannot be burned or can.
Nothing happens to the soul, but because it's like when you have sometimes nightmare, bad dreams or something. So you're still the same soul. Why are you suffering? Because you identify. You understand? Because of false ego. Then you falsely identify with all of those. That's the problem. Okay, we'll have some more discussion afterwards. It's time for dinner prasadam. Shri Prabhupada ki jai.